Martin Hazel is a director of Simplexity, a company that helps prepare people and organisations to meet the challenges of change and complexity. Using his international experience of change leadership and strategic management, Martin helps to turn strategy into sustainable benefits. He assists organisations in understanding their strengths and building a healthy leadership culture. Martin, what issues of risk management does this case illustrate?
The first thing is you need to distinguish, or they need to distinguish, between what they can influence, what they can actually control, and what is totally outside of their control. And their responses to how they manage each of those different categories will be very different. I think it's also important to stress that uncertainty can lead to downside, which we commonly call risk, but also to upside, opportunity. And thinking only of risk management as a negative consequence limits your ability to exploit opportunities when they occur. And secondly, there's a really important point that risk is not always a negative thing. Uncertainties create new opportunities. And thirdly, how they respond to these various risks and these various opportunities itself is a risk in itself, because they'll be looked at by a number of organisations around the world, whether it's non-governmental organisations like the World Wildlife Fund, whether it's regulatory authorities, or whether it's investors with the green agenda. That's a very important point. So their reaction to how they manage the uncertainty is really important. And one of the techniques that's been used by Shell and other people in the extraction industry is scenario planning, where they take all of these uncertainties together, they create plausible outcomes, and work out how they would react were this outcome to happen, rather than treat each individual uncertainty as a single event. It's a combination that's important. What that does is prepare them to deal with the unknown, the unknowable, the unpredictable. How would they react? How would they respond? How would they be seen in the world?
How would you assess the various risks that WCM is facing?
If we take those risks in turn, we start with the exploitation risk. There's very little or nothing that WCM can do about what is actually in the ground. What they can do is assess what they're prepared to spend to find more information before they make an investment decision. Turning to the security risk, there's very little that WCM can do to affect the internal political relationships within the country. What they can do is manage how they are perceived as a potential target. They can also, investment decision, decide how much they're prepared to spend on security for their workforce, whether it's perimeter security or whatever. Turning to the health risk, this is something totally within the control of careful operations that will protect the environment and the people that work for them. More importantly, by being positive in their corporate social responsibility, they will enhance their reputation in the local community and reduce their security risk by seeing as somebody who is helping rather than destroying their environment. In terms of economic risk, there's very little that they can do to affect this. What's important is they know how they're going to react and whether they can, through positive contribution, influence the behaviour of the local government. In terms of financial risk, in any venture of this nature, there is going to be huge financial risk. That's the nature of the beast. What they can do is think about what really they can influence. And actually, one of the things they've flagged in here as a financial risk isn't really. This is the transport risk. There is a cost of doing business. That needs to be assessed up front and managed accordingly. But it's a cost of doing business, not a risk. It's something within their control. There is one more risk that is not mentioned in the case, and that's the political and relationship risk. The relationship with ATZ. How well can WCM control the behaviour of ATZ, its joint venture partner, and their employees? Because its inability to control those behaviours will have a huge impact on its health risk, on its security risk, and on its political risk.
How would you advise WCM about including the African joint venture in its prospectus?
I would start by looking at, or getting them to look at, the implications of their decision. Do they want to attract capital now in a hurry, or are they prepared to get the right sort of capital and take a bit longer about it? The issue here is that sophisticated investors are looking at their own risk profile. They're looking at, is this an opportunity within my risk that I think I'm going to make money on or have a chance of making money on? But more importantly, is this a management team that I think can deliver that? And integrity becomes quite an important part of that trust relationship. So they have a number of options, and there is no right answer, but they need to be looking at the sort of investor they want to attract and retain. If they get the wrong sort of investor up front, they will pay the price for that in the long term, because they won't deliver the security of income that a lower risk investor will expect.